समझ नहीं आ रहा अपने सैलरी इंक्रीमेंट का क्या करूं।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स के एसआईपी का टॉप अप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
क्या समझ में नहीं आया?
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स का एसआईपी टॉप अप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
आप समझा?
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
Asim Munir doesn't seem to get the message at all. Back in the United States for his second visit in 2 months, raising all sorts of questions about why Donald Trump, in the middle of his tariff war with India, is cozying up to the Field Marshal and the Pakistani Army Chief, has now made a set of shocking comments. Reportedly at a private closed-door meeting of the Pakistani diaspora. And remember, his first unhinged speech just before the Pahalgam terror attack was also addressing a community of overseas Pakistanis. Well, this time, reportedly, Asim Munir was once again attending a private closed-door diaspora event when he actually made a nuclear threat from American soil. He spoke about how, if there were any perceived threat from India, Pakistan would take half the world down with it. He bizarrely compared India to a Mercedes car and Pakistan to a gravel-filled dump truck. And he also targeted one of India's top industrialists, Mukesh Ambani. These comments were first reported in the print and now have been reported widely across Indian media. The MEA has responded, saying nuclear saber rattling is typical of Pakistan. What's going on? How do we read this brazen nuclear threat made from American soil? And why is the Trump administration cozying up to Pakistan? I'm Barkha, you're with the Mojo story. As I said, Asim Munir is back for his second visit to the United States of America in as many months. Earlier, he attended a closed-door lunch meeting with Donald Trump, the details of which are not really available, but that's the same day that Trump wanted Prime Minister Modi to visit as well, and he was told thanks, but no thanks. Now, there are rising tensions between India and America in the midst of a trade war. Trump has slapped a 50% tariff on India. Pakistan has a much lower tariff rate. In the meantime, speaking reportedly at a closed-door event of the Pakistani diaspora, the Pakistani army chief has spoken about taking half the world down if Pakistan faces a threat, spoken about how if dams are built on the Indus water, then, well, Pakistan can target those dams with missiles, repeated his Director General ISPR's comments on how Pakistan will next target India from the east, and also gone on to compare India to a Mercedes car and Pakistan to a dump-filled gravel truck. What's actually going on here? How do we read the new coziness between Trump and Pakistan? What explains Trump's pivot to Pakistan? The foreign ministry has reacted sharply, saying nuclear saber rattling is in Pakistan's stock trade. Let me introduce our guests on the program today as we try and make sense of what's happening, if we can at all. Military veteran General Raj Shukla is with us. Good to see you, sir. Also joining me from the United States of America today is Chidanand Rajghatta, who also has a very detailed report out in the Times of India on these remarks, purported remarks. And also joining us is Ambassador Manjeev Puri, a veteran diplomat. To be clear, there is no video available of these remarks. It's not clear whether this is Munir being boastful in a dinner table or lunch table conversation with somebody that has been passed on, or an actual structured speech. There remains some confusion about this, but these remarks have now been widely reported. And in one particular case, he's actually repeating what his DGISPR said on record to The Economist, and that is striking India from the east. So that makes that comment, the fact that Munir could have made that comment, very, very plausible. Let's get the first comment from Chidanand, who, as I said, has a very detailed story in the Times of India on these comments. Do we have any more details, Chidanand, Because as I said, this is not on video. This was a closed door meeting. It was a private meeting. It sounds like Munir was being brazenly boastful, perhaps emboldened also by the new tensions between India and the Trump administration. What do you know? What have you picked up? What can we say with some certainty at this point?
Thank you, Barkha, for having me. Yes, you're right on all these counts. It was, a closed-door private meeting, apparently, and these remarks were made after an event, a formal event, where U.S. generals were present. The outgoing commander of CENTCOM, the incoming commander, and the chief of staff, joint chief of staffs of the United States. There is a little background to this. General Munir, this is his second visit, correct? But this visit was only for that particular event in Tampa, where there was a changeover of the Central Command. He did not come to Washington. He actually may have transited through Washington or New York on his way out, and he went to Brussels next. But there was no event in Washington, D.C. So this was a Central Command event. And the background to Dr. Munir's, General Munir's, remarks is that there is a lot of opposition to him in Pakistan, on the civilian side, and particularly from Imran Khan's troops. So the overseas Imran Khan brigade, the PTI activists, have been actually protesting his visit. They did so in Washington, they did so in Tampa, and they're doing so in Brussels. Did so in Brussels too yesterday, Sunday evening, when he was there. So he's trying to, rally the constituency, back into the Pakistani fold, and obviously is being boastful. He sees, a time when he thinks India is vulnerable, and yes, this comments on, coming in from the east, attacking from the east, probably has to do with his perceived perception of India having a hard time with Bangladesh and with China. So there's a lot going into this. A lot of this is rhetoric, really. Look, at the end of the day, there's really no need to quench, because these are minor tactical victories, as I see it. And insofar as President Trump goes, this is his style. He art of the deal, or a word that rhymes with art of the deal. The guy uses every country to play off against another country. He will use Pakistan, to coerce India into a trade deal. He'll use India threat of 50% tariff against India to sort of force China. He'll use China against Russia, and so on. That's his style, and I think by now we should have figured it out. I don't see this as any great, threat from Pakistan. They'll be used, tactically, and they'll be cast aside. Pakistan really has nothing to offer to the United States or to the rest of the world. As someone famously remarked, we have IT, infotech, and they have IT, international terrorism. So really, if you look at Pakistan's export to the US, 10 billion, India has 135 billion. There is simply no comparison. So yeah, these are tactical victories, a lot of rhetoric, he'll spew, and eventually they'll be cast aside, as they have been before, because they don't have much use now, and particularly since the United States is out of Afghanistan, they don't even need the sort of entree into Afghanistan through Pakistan. Trump loves to taunt not just people but also nations. So when he says something like, "Oh, one day Pakistan may be selling oil to India," what oil? Pakistan has been talking about his oil reserves for 50 years. Bhutto talked about it 50 years ago. They still haven't found it. Oil, minerals, crypto. But you have to hand it to Pakistan, because they have very few cards, and they've played it well.
Can I ask you something though before
Sure.
I go to General Shukla and Ambassador Puri? Pakistan has nothing to offer to the US. So is Trump doing this? I understand that Munir was not in Washington this time around. This was the purpose of this visit was different, or the social calendar of this visit was different, and so on. But is Trump doing this to A, spite India? B, what truth is there to the business dealing reported between Trump, a company which is linked to Trump's family, and Pakistan's crypto council? 3, how true is it that Pakistan has hired a lobbying firm that is owned and run by Trump's former bodyguard? I'm raising all of this to try and make sense of why Trump has pivoted to Pakistan, why Pakistan has a lower tariff rate than India, We know one of the reasons is that Pakistan recommended Trump for a Nobel Prize. Pakistan flattered Trump's giant ego. India refused to do so. But what else is going on here?
Again, you're right. The simple fact is that India refused to kiss up to Trump, and he loves people who kiss up to him. If you notice, leaders from all over the world come trotting up to Washington. They're very deferential. They praise him. They try and play golf with him. They go to Mar-a-Lago. We are more protocol bound, no Indian prime minister, forget not just Prime Minister Modi, but no Indian prime minister can afford to be seen as servile or, sycophantic towards the United States. Internally, of course, we are servile and sycophantic. There's a lot of that in our culture. But when we go abroad, we have very stiff spines and we like to stand up. If you remember the event when Prime Minister visited White House, there was Trump talking about, we'll make America great again. And what did Mr. Modi do? He said, yeah, sure, you make America great again. We'll make India great again. And we talked about Viksit Bharat. So that's our style. And whereas you see most other leaders come, they're very, very deferential. And some of them get insulted in the White House, like the South African, President Ramaphosa, that's Zelensky, the way he was berated. So it's stylistically and in terms of diplomatic protocol, we are very, very tough. And you're right that President Trump, like I said, he uses countries, and he has a very public, abrasive style. There is no finesse, there is no nuance to this. He has no eye for details. All you have to do, let me tell you, the one thing India could have easily done is, when he boasted that, I brought about peace between India and Pakistan, the Indian side could have responded more, tactfully and said, oh, thank you, Mr. President, for bringing, saying counsel to Pakistan and asking them to come to us, right? Instead of saying, no, he never had a role. So there are a lot of things, nuances here, but he has no time for nuances of finesse.
My sense on that, I could be wrong. This is just guessing. Nobody has said this to me. My sense on this could be, had Trump not beaten India to the announcement of a decision that was our sovereign decision, things may have been very different, even in saying, hey, thanks, America, for making Pakistan see sense. But, Trump, in a way, sort of tried to take away India's sovereign right to make that announcement on our own terms. But that said, before we get into Operation Sindoor, let's go back to what the show is about today. Munir, Ambassador Puri, the Foreign Ministry, the MEA, has responded. Since yesterday, we first saw this reported in the print, then we saw it in the Times of India, now it's all across media. There is no structured speech available of Munir saying this. This is a private event. And the conversation, a lot of the comments were made in Urdu, they've been translated, they've been summarized. And in some way, some of these comments are bizarre. For example, Munir is reported to have said India is like a Mercedes car, Pakistan is like a gravel-carrying dump truck. But when they collide, guess who is hurt more? Trying to say that, Pakistan may be punching above its weight, but the damage will be to India. But conceding that Pakistan is the gravel-carrying dump truck. Not sure that's great for Pakistan's self-image as a nation. That said, do you agree with Chidanand ki this is just sort of boastful loose talk? There's nothing more to it. The reason I am not fully convinced is that this gentleman made a very unhinged speech a couple of days before the Pahalgam terror attack, also addressing an overseas Pakistani event. Now, if he has said all these things to a diaspora event from US soil, if he has actually said we'll take down half the world if, we perceive a threat from India, I mean, can the Americans afford to ignore this?
Barkha, thank you. First of all, gentlemen, may I ask you to put your hands together and clap for Barkha? What she did with Fareed Zakaria, Barkha, thank you very much. We're answering all these questions.
Thank you.
Fabulous.
Thank you.
Fabulous. That's
so much,
what is needed. Great. And that will be seen by the world. Not that your show isn't seen. Barkha, look, he's the army chief of Pakistan. He was in the residence of the honorary consul general of Pakistan in Tampa. It was not a small little family event. It was an event it was, let me say, it was a private event, but it was a structured event with, I'm sure, the haves of the Pakistani society in Tampa and maybe friends of Pakistan. So the man may have spoken loosely, but he spoke his mind out, and his mind has the same kind of things which happened in Pahalgam. Let's not forget where he comes from. We had a Stephanian General Zia, who went about dragging Pakistan into this entire business of the Islamic Pakistan, etc. Here is a person who comes from that background. So, one shouldn't take what he says lightly. At the same time, of course, I completely agree with Mr. Rajgata that, there is an element of boastfulness. There's an element of small time take some things, this dump truck and Mercedes and this kind of stupidity, etc. But, these kind of things are quite common. I don't want to say among us Punjabis and so on, and I don't know where Asim Munir comes from, but I take it the same kind of background. We have a tendency of sort of shooting off. Having said this, let me make one or two.
Our community does not have to take ownership for Asim Munir now. I have to.
No, we're not. I'm not taking any ownership. I'm simply saying.
Punjabi.
Sure, Barkha, I'm with you. Let me just make one or two. This nuclear business. Let's take ourselves back to what Donald Trump also said. There were two sets of things. One, you're fighting for 1,000 years, and B, that millions are at risk. There is a certain kind of conflation putting these together. And these particular things is something that this fellow has said, and General Munir has said, Field Marshal Asim Munir has said out there. Look, the Americans should be mindful of this. They should certainly take cognizance of the fact that their soil has been, if I may use the expression, misused for such a kind of nuclear threat, which is a very important thing for a P5 member and for a signatory to the NPT. And this is something which is extremely important, especially coming at a time when somebody goes to their central command, somebody with whom he has a professional relationship, you demit office, you take someone in, and at that time you speak in this kind of thing, loose talk. Let's not just let the person get away with that. That's something I want to be very clear. On the other hand, I also don't want us to, we should be mindful what kind of individual we have, what kind of leadership we now have in Pakistan. And let's be clear, leadership has always been with the army, and what kind of general we now have. And he has to prove a point to the people of Pakistan that he matters, that he's, in a sense, getting the army back into its position of being able to make Pakistan great again, if I may say so. That kind of stuff. That's very, very important from our perspective to understand. And I think we did slip up. We didn't hear his first speech carefully enough, but that's okay. These things happen. India is not just the Mercedes, but it's an armor-plated Mercedes. So the dump truck, better beware. I don't want to go into all this. I just want to make these few points to you. The United States should take cognizance. Of course, he's playing games. I thought that little bit about Mr. Mukesh Ambani was particularly in poor taste. With countries, come on, let's have it out. But you don't say all this kind of stuff, even in private gatherings, which will be reported, and you think that you made a great joke, but it's not so. These are in poor taste. They don't reflect your high position, but they are the nature of the individual, and we should try and learn from this. What does it mean? This is on Mr. Asim Munir's side. Then comes the Donald Trump, and there I agree with Chidanand that we need to start understanding the individual and what drives him far better. But I'll stop now because this program is about the Army Chief of Pakistan.
No, actually, it's all connected. I think what Trump is doing with Pakistan cannot be separated from what's happening between Trump and India. So we'll come to that. But General Shukla, two variations, I would say, in the perspectives we've heard so far. Chidanand is, look, he said it, he's being boastful. So what else is new? This is Pakistan. It's rhetorical. It doesn't translate necessarily into something that India needs to be concerned about. But here are my concerns. He was also being rhetorical before Pahalgam. Some might have argued then. And the Pahalgam terror attack followed. Secondly, the Director General of Pakistan's ISPR, the military spokesperson, tells The Economist, I would say, 5-6 days ago, exactly what Munir is reported to have reinforced in America about striking India from the east. If we can have that particular comment up, yeah, there it is. Now, this cannot be a coincidence. I mean, they're obviously zoning in on Bangladesh's troubles with India, trying to rebuild their own relationship with Bangladesh. And this is unlike everything else about Munir, which is a leak. The comments made to The Economist, reportedly repeated by Munir, were on record, right? Thirdly, the third thing that concerns me is Trump's delusion that he can, in fact, undermine India's sovereignty. Because I really do believe that the trade war, and that's what I said on Fareed Zakaria's show, and Ambassador Puri, thank you for those kind words. I think Trump thinks India's sovereignty is something that he can undermine. And to that end, he is pivoting to Pakistan at a time when we are embarking on a cautious rapprochement with China, where too Pakistan has deep links. All of this is of concern to me. General Shukla.
Yeah, Barkha, why should we wait to get startled when General Asim Munir or his DG ISPR make these statements about Bangladesh? They've been pretty apparent for a while. I and you have spoken on your show about the Bangladesh thing. So why should we get startled when they say it? That is a reality. But that's the only serious issue in this whole speech that General Munir gave. And before that, I've just been wondering that has the time come to stop this ego massaging of Trump? Till when can it go on? I mean, we are a 5,000, 6,000 year old civilization. And look at the countries which have begun to stand up to Trump. Brazil, Russia, India, China. So is BRICS a serious threat to the MAGA challenge? Maybe. At least these countries are showing some spine. The rest of the world seems to have gone and laid themselves prostrate before Trump and MAGA's unreasonableness. I mean, now is Trump going to dictate our strategic choices, where we will buy oil from, where will we get our ammunition and arms from? So you just have to stand up to the schoolyard bully. And that time, unfortunately, has come. On a lighter note, we invested in Miller, a sophisticated communication strategist. And Pakistan, as is their wont, in line with their intellectual capacities, chose a bodyguard. The bodyguard gets them 19% tariff. So if you apply that Pakistani kind of logic, perhaps we are making mistakes. But if you go by the Indian logic of reasonableness, I think we are doing pretty well. And the time has come to stand up, and that's what we are doing. See, this is what Mr. Rajghat was suggesting, or I think Ambassador Puri, or perhaps you suggested, कि भाई थोड़ा बहुत और कर लेते, मान लेते ceasefire. Then what would have happened? Come to Washington, pose for a snap with Asim Munir.
No, I didn't suggest this. I didn't suggest this.
The third part I am suggesting.
Yes.
This would never have ended. Like the Armenian and the Azerbaijani presidents of made to pose.
Sure.
So sorry to use this word, ये जो ट्रम्प का तमाशा है, उसकी जो बेवकूफियां हैं, इनका तो अंत होना ही था. And the sooner the better. So I have no regrets on that. And please, you go back to your shows. I've been very rosy-eyed about the Indo-US. So this time has come because, and the serious Pakistani thinkers must note what Shuja Nawaz said about the sheer unequalness of the Pakistan-US relationship. He called it a fundamental misalliance. It's not going to succeed. I mean, I'm pretty sure about it. Now let's get to this gathering in Florida. I've gone through the print article. I couldn't go through I didn't see the article by Mr. Rajghat, but the print article I've gone through. And thank you, Ambassador Puri, for graciously acknowledging that it was a Punjabi gathering. So he was speaking to his own. And in that sense, perhaps the caliber of the intellect was not too high. It was, garrulous, boastful, and amusing. Let me tell you why. I mean, there are the serious issues of schoolboy boorish nuclear saber rattling. But what is amusing is this. Even the quality of saber rattling came from a very madrasa kind of understanding of nuclear theology. It didn't have the finesse and sophistication of Pervez Musharraf. Let me tell you why. See, what does he argue? So what is his argument about taking this world, half the world down with him? So when he links it to terror, it is this, कि भाई हम terror attack करेंगे, आप nuclear attack करोगे, और क्योंकि हम आपसे हारेंगे, we will not be able to stand up to you conventionally. You will do the nuclear stuff when we have an NFU. We are never going to do it. And when the conventional attack succeeds, I will blow up this suicide bomb. And by the way, which half of the world will you take down? Trump's half or Xi's half? I mean, spell that out. So this is all kind of, boorish stuff, makes no sense to me. This point that he made about this truck full of gravel or whatever. So, bhai, this is not the Parakram military. We don't need this Mercedes to come and hit the truck. We will take you out from 400 kilometers. The character of war has changed. अब हम आके टकराएंगे थोड़ी ना आपके साथ. So, the whole point with Pakistan, and I don't want to, shall I use it? I mean, you wrestle with a pig, the pig enjoys it. So why wrestle with a pig? If we build our capacities, combat, overmatch and all, Pakistan se baat hi nahi hogi. In that same speech, dekho, what does he go on to say? He says only one of the two states have been founded on the Kalima, the Islamic profession of faith. When he's asked, or people perhaps wanted to know, where are these rare earths and oil reserves? So God, Allah will bless us with this. So no scientific basis, all theological hope. So वो पूरी जो speech है, it is absolutely low IQ. The last thing he says is, look, how Pakistan, gave this master class on balancing rival powers. Is he two-timing China? I mean, a whole lot of nonsense in that speech. Nothing to get worried about. Surely garrulous, amusing. But what we have to focus on now, that's an absolutely different matter. I've been saying for very long, threats, strategic environments, build combat overmatch, build those capacities and not get worried about this boorish saber rattling.
Okay, boorish saber rattling, and I sort of love this idea of, in this sort of non-monogamous world of current global diplomacy, whether Pakistan is two-timing China is a rather interesting thought. But before we come to that, one of the points, General Shukla, you flagged again and again is strategic communication. And I want to just ask Chidanand how this is playing out on the Hill. What's actually going on? How much truth is there to the fact that this lobbying firm deployed by Pakistan has close links to Trump personally, the former bodyguard that I mentioned? Is there a reason that Trump is, however transactionally, showing this softness for Pakistan?
I don't know what hill you're talking about, Barkha, because there's no hill. The Congress is now.
True. This is true.
Moribund,
I'm so used to saying the Hill. I should say in the corridors of power in Washington. What's going on?
This is now the U.S. is well on its way to becoming an autocracy, a plutocracy or oligarchy, whatever, or a combination of all. As we speak, actually, there are 1,000 National Guard and FBI agents spreading out in Washington, literally to take over the Capitol. So this is going to become a militarized, zone. But about the lobbying thing, look, like I said, it's a tactical win for Pakistan. They identified bodyguard. By the way, he, Keith Schiller resigned as bodyguard in 2017. So it's not like he's in the Trump inner circle right now. He's somewhere on the fringes. And so is Miller, who was, campaign manager. The thing is, I think this lobbying thing, it used to work previously. I'm not sure it works very well now because Trump is his own man. He has his own ideas of how to, bring about deals and, what to use. I mean, he firmly believes in his art of the deal, his own book or ghostwritten, of course, but his own thesis. And that's how he's playing this. Insofar as Munir's remarks are concerned, I have to point this out. Because there's a term called whistling Dixie or plus whistling in the dark. To me, this is whistling in the dark. To put it in crude Indian street language, Pakistan ki fati hui hai. They are scared. No, they're really scared because look, the Mercedes-Benz and gravel truck, that tells you everything you need to know. This country is in terminal decline. They have absolutely no hope. You look at their GDP, one Indian state, I mean, Maharashtra now will have more GDP than Pakistan or Tamil Nadu or Karnataka, any one Indian state. And eventually, I'm sure UP and Bihar will also overtake them the way things are going. So they're really, really scared. So they have to talk it up. They have to talk up their, whatever little they have. And so you don't have, natural resources and you create resources.
I'm sorry I'm interrupting you, because
Sure.
let me just ask the contrarian question. You say Pakistan is whistling in the dark. Some might say Pakistan is emboldened because of the troubles between Trump and India.
Yeah, sure. I'm sure they'd love to take advantage of this. Like I said, they'd even love to take advantage of our current, troubles with Bangladesh or our differences with China.
Yeah.
That's the nature of the game. Like I said, there are very few cards. They play their cards well. You have to admire, their tactical news. But strategically, in the long look, there are about 1,200 days for Trump. Oil exploration, mineral exploration takes years. It takes billions of dollars. You don't even know Trump will be there, into another term, or whatever Trump's successor. You don't know what's coming. So the idea that somehow, oil will come gushing out and they'll have billions and trillions. I mean, this is stuff they have spoken about for a long time, right? I mean, you just play with a limited number of cards. You try and make yourself relevant by, this nuclear saber rattling. But in the long run, like my fellow panelists said, civilizationally, we are a 5,000, 6,000 year old country. These are all temporary blips. I really don't think, we have to take it so seriously.
I wanted to get in Ambassador Puri, but I see General Shukla's hand repeatedly go up, I think, for an interjection. General Shukla, sir?
No, I wanted to make some points. I'll wait for Ambassador Puri.
Okay, let me come to the ambassador then. Sometimes, Ambassador Puri, I can't read your very quizzical smiles. I don't know if you're agreeing, disagreeing, what you're actually thinking. So are you looking at Munir's comments with some alarm? Or are you thinking this too will pass? Or do you believe, and I think it's a very interesting question about jokes apart, Pakistan, China, India, China, Trump, China. Look, Trump will want to cut a deal with the Chinese. Whether he can, he can't, he doesn't, we don't know. But he'll want to. We know that we've had serious troubles with China, even in Operation Sindoor. We know about China's role in this war. Yet, relations with Trump have deteriorated to the degree that we must now balance our strategic interests, our strategic outreach. And so here we are on this very cautious rapprochement path with China. But if Pakistan has an inroad with Trump and Pakistan has an inroad with China, how should India be responding?
Barkha, thank you very much, and thank you for saying what you did. Look, I want to be very clear on one thing. We have Pakistan on our doorstep. It's not a small little country. They're in decline. I come from an age when 1971 happened. And that's part of the reason why I'm a very proud Indian today. The other thing is becoming an emerging economy from being a poor developing country. What a difference it's made to me and my life. So let's be very clear. Pakistan diminishes. I'm much happier because it's a country which is declared us to be an enemy. What else can I say about it? Now, having said all this, it's a country with an important geography, and we don't need to get into why they are important to not just the West, but the Chinese and even the Russians for that matter. But let's leave all that aside. This is not a country which is going away in the next 2-3 years or 5 years or whatever it is. This chap is at the helm of that country. And this is the person who calls the shots in that country. No matter what we think, we should therefore, I'm not saying take a speech in a manner that, we have to go into hiding. No, nothing at all. But try and now build an understanding of the kind of individual you have on the other side. It's vastly different than his predecessors, and we didn't do a great job after that speech before Pahalgam. Now let us internalize all of this and let's keep ourselves in preparedness. That doesn't mean we have to do Parakaram, etc. We are an armor-plated Mercedes and much more than that. And, we are more than capable of defending us. Now you come to this China and all these questions. Look, Barkha, I am an old believer that in India's case, what happened over the last, say, 15, 20 years, the lean in the direction of the United States, I think, made us, in a sense, in real terms, lose this strategic autonomy and so on and so on. Now, are you being forced to do it? I hope it's not happening as a rebound. I hope it's happening because this was always there within us. And it was a matter that we always thought was important. I don't want to belabor the point, but it isn't for nothing that we came up with non-alignment and so on. There is a manifest destiny that we think of ourselves. the world's largest country now, the fourth or third largest economy. We may be a country which is 139 out of 193 per capita income, but going places. And so therefore, a degree of being able to run with the hares and the hounds, it's necessary for us to do. You can call it multi-alignment, strategic autonomy, you can call it whatever. And these are not just talk shop ideas in think tank places. You need to walk them. There's been mention of BRICS, etc. Did we not underplay BRICS, etc. to Quad? And now one of my colleagues said the other day that, will the Quad summit take place? I'm not so very sure. If Trump and Putin somehow or the other manage to stitch things, the Quad summit will happen and we'll be laying out a much thicker red carpet there than for the BRICS leaders when they come here. We know the facts. Let's not shy away from this. You studied in Columbia. I have children who have graduated from school there. We know that country attracts us at the level of people, and our leadership for the last 15, 20 years have found that the United States is what I believe they believe is an indispensable and an important, very critical partner for India's growth as well as a bulwark for China. Now, having said all this, there is also something deep in our political psyche which does not allow us to reach the level of what you may say ally, and hence we therefore stop short on that. Not a bad idea in my understanding. Others may not agree with me on this, but everybody has his own thinking on all of this. So the way I look at it is this China, United States, and I think Trump will make every effort to do a deal with Xi Jinping, and I don't think he will hold back either. That's why, in my opinion, he didn't go for the BRICS summit. BRICS and China can't separate itself, but he tried to separate himself from the BRICS summit. He will try to do a deal. Trump will want to do a deal with him. Whether it comes or not, I don't know the answers to these things because you're dealing with individuals who are taking decisions. So that's the bottom line. But Pakistan, let's now become a little more mindful of this individual who has the control of the country and control of its might, whatever that might be.
Okay, you've said a lot of different things. So I'm going to pick up this point about that if Trump gets a deal with Putin and is able to backpedal then from his tariffs against India, will India be rolling out the red carpet during a Quad summit? It's an interesting thought. I don't know that the Prime Minister, having been embarrassed by this man in whom he invested a great deal of political capital earlier, would ever reach that personal comfort again. I don't know. I'm just leaving that thought there. Before I come to General Shukla, the army chief, our army chief, made a couple of interesting comments over the weekend. One was, of course, a little bit of a humorous comment on how Pakistan seems to think that Sindoor was a victory because Munir got a promotion. But the more serious comment was about war preparedness. I want to actually say, he said the next war may happen soon and we must be prepared accordingly. I'm just going to play that out. Take a look.
I will not have time to explain the 4 quadrants, but the non-kinetic quadrant is something which you can start today. And the next war, which we are looking at, it may happen soon, and we have to prepare accordingly, as already been brought out by Director, that in this we have to fight this battle together. This non-kinetic has to be fought together. So what are the deductions? That as far as whole of nation approach will be there for the next war, it is not the military alone which will be fighting. Let me assure you very clearly in this issue. As far as the grey zone is concerned, it's ever present and this will remain.
So we are in the age of grey zone warfare, clearly, General Shukla. But it is important, and in this Munir Tamasha, it has been overlooked, that India's army chief is talking about how the next war may happen soon. He's not just talking in generic terms about be ever war ready. He is making a comment the next war may happen soon. So look at the balls up in the air from an India perspective. Trouble with Bangladesh, a fragile sort of dialogue with China, trouble with the Americans, right? So, that 3.5 front war that we talk about may well be upon our door. I don't know how you saw those comments. And, we're trying to join all the various dots here. Munir, Trump India, Trump China, Trump Putin, and India, Russia, China axis. I don't know, anything can happen. In this churn right now, anything can happen.
I have no doubt. I agree with the Army Chief 400%. I've been pointing it out on your show. And see now, what are the things that should worry us? Strategic autonomy cannot mean that we are friendless in the strategic military sense. And that is my biggest worry. Because Trump is not only quixotic, he can be ruthless and devious. So in the next conflict with Pakistan, the stuff that we've got from the Americans thus far, it may not be available to us. What are our options? That should seriously worry us. The way the Pakistanis, are collaborating with Turkey, USA. I mean, we've been pointing out the Minister of Defense Industries of Turkey has been both in Pakistan and Bangladesh over the last 2 months, 3 times. All this is not innocent. So, and what is happening? This is the point. Look at our defense budgets. Look at our investments in technology converting into combat capacities. These issues are really worrisome. I mean, if the Pakistanis get those J-20s, J-35s, as I've been pointing out, and the HQ-19s, the air balance will change dramatically. I'm surprised these debates in India are not as deep as they should be. So the next conflict could be 4 months, 6 months, 1 year down the line. That should really seriously worry us. And I have been making this point. I want to make one point, in the context of this Munir reaching out to Kurovilla, Don Kane and all. The military to military institutional relationship, how it plays out in the American context, it's extremely important. This is not the first time it's happened. We've seen Pervez Musharraf with James Mattis. We've seen Ashfaq Kayani with a couple of other generals, Tommy Franks and so on and so forth. These military to military relationships matter. They lead to quid pro quos, so on and so forth. We have been exceptionally coy in this regard. We will have one colonel liaison officer in CENTCOM, one colonel liaison officer in Indo-PACOM. That's not good enough. As we are stepping up in this game, we need to invest far more in the military to military diplomacy game. And that is why I've been making a case for theater commanders. It's so critical. The Western theater commander will have a quasi-diplomatic role looking at Afghanistan, Iran. Eastern theater commander looking at Myanmar. The maritime commander connecting with Indo-PACOM. And these things do matter, as it has mattered with Munir Kurovilla, Munir Don Kane. Why are we not investing in this domain? So, these are some of the issues that should seriously worry us, and not so much the content of Munir's speech. That was boastful, garrulous, and amusing. But there are other issues which we've been on many of your shows. They have really not picked traction, resonance in our amidst our strategic commentary. That is worrying.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. Before I give Chidanand the last word on how he thinks this may unfold in America, Ambassador Puri, any last thoughts? Do you actually agree that that this could pass soon? That this phase may pass soon, and it depends on an external set of developments? For example, what happens between Trump and Putin? I think you alluded to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
None of us will disagree with what General Shukla has been saying in terms of defense budget preparedness and so on and so forth, and including this business of military to military relationships. I want to tell you, Barkha, you and I lived in New York, but those who lived in Washington, and let's leave out the World Bank crowd. The Pakistanis over the last 60, 70 years have built up a huge set of relationships in and around Washington with this particular element of the military industrial complex. Look at the number of their ex-generals owning ranches and so on and so forth. It's something which we possibly don't understand. In cricketing terms, we say, this is the difference between gentlemen and the professionals. We're doing very well, but these gentlemen keep scoring here and there. Talking about the other things, look, Barkha, it is my convinced belief, no matter what you said and so on and so forth, that in India, at leadership levels, there is a kind of convinced belief of the critical importance of the United States. And one is for our growth and development, our high table aspirations, and the other is this bulwark against China. And this is not something that is easily going away. We understand that in the United States tempestuous kind of relationships happen. With the Dems, you have them poking their nose into your internal domestic affairs. Now you have Mr. Trump. This is something, frankly, we didn't study well. We didn't figure out very well because we thought it was Trump 1.0, which was an accidental presidency surrounded by institutionalists. They may have been nationalists. This is Trump 2.0, no institutionalists. And I don't want to say it on your thing, but those who want wealth, he wants deal, legacy, all sorts of issues of this kind. And it's not just about the K word. We also try to do it, try to be there the first, etc. No, it's what the man wants in his lolly, which is not particularly easy for a country to do. But supposing these things happen in the next 3-4 months, you have opportunities. I do believe, and I believe it would be a sensible move, no matter what other things happen and this hurts, etc. The national interest would dictate that, yes, you do. I don't want to say rebuild, but you do, carry on this strengthening relationship. My little point is, at the same time, don't forget strategic autonomy means that while laying out one red carpet, you also be prepared to lay out the other red carpets, and hopefully in the same degree of thickness.
Okay, let me give the last word to Chidanand. Here's the question for you. If Trump is able to secure some success when he meets Putin, does he get a reason to feel like the president of peace, which is how the White House is presenting him, which is how the Pakistanis are flattering him? India isn't. But then does he get a context to backpedal from this conflict with India? Because he can't, theoretically, he's penalizing us for buying Russian oil. If he gets a deal with the Russians, he can't penalize us for that anymore. So is that where this is headed? Is that how this is going to de-escalate? Or what do you see happening in the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, I mean, if there is a deal with Putin, definitely there'll be some dialing down. At least the 25% penalty may go, but the other 25% tariff is still there. Look, the thing is, as I look at it, it's not just this. There's another backstory to this, which is BRICS. Trump is very fearful of de-dollarization. Okay, so there are conflicting impulses there. On the one hand, he wants a weaker dollar because that will help, the U.S. deficit. At the same time, he wants a dollar's primacy to remain. He wants a dollar to be the reserve currency. And he has seen BRICS as a threat, and he has said so very openly. And so he's trying to dismantle BRICS piece by piece by, giving China some concession at some point, by making a deal with Russia. And it's interesting that he takes on the two democracies in BRICS, the two most prominent democracies, India and Brazil. So there's that piece of it. But overall, if you step back, I see this as a very teachable moment for India, frankly. I don't think we should get funked by this. The fact is, I'm old enough to remember, I'm from a generation when, when IBM went out of India or was sent out of India by George Fernandez and Coca-Cola in 1977, 78. You know what happened next? HCL was born. And then Wipro was born. Azim Premji came back from Stanford and turned a vegetable oil company he inherited into an IT company. Nobody remembers today that Wipro is a vegetable oil company.
That's right.
And then Infosys came along later. And then IBM and Coca-Cola all came back in the 90s with liberalization. We forgot all about this.
Yeah.
Right? So the thing is, it is a wonderful moment if you approach it with discipline, with determination. This can be a very good turning point from India. And again, I also come from a generation where I had a brother who was a world traveler at the time, and I was in India, and I'd ask him can you please get me Levi's from America and Walkman and latest Pink Floyd album. You know what? I told my daughter, 2 years from now, if this continues, you will be asking me to get iPhones from India.
Yeah.
Right? Remember that.
Yeah.
So this is where, we need to have the self-confidence that we're not a vassal state, or we are not a, country which sort of goes down, but it requires, discipline, determination. And I think I sense it happening. One of the big gripes I've always had is how, we're so poor at marketing ourselves and our products. It burns me up every time I go to Costco and see basmati selling for $1 a pound, right? Cheaper than in India. It's basmati. It should be like $4.99 or $5.99 a pound. The Malabar and Tellicherry pepper, okay, selling at $2.99. I mean, it's absurd. It used to be called black gold. Why aren't we marketing it better? I asked an MP, one of our friends, from Kerala, very prominent, why is it spices selling so cheap? And he said, oh, there's so much competition from rest of the world. I said, yeah, sure there is, but then it's all about marketing. You're getting pepper from the land of pepper, from the original, spice cornucopia, right? So these are a lot of teachable moments we'll have, and we have to not believe that it's the end of the world if we stop trading or trading with U.S. dials down. That's okay. There are other markets. There's Gulf, there's Africa, there's European. Everyone's panicked about shrimp. The fact is, very few people. Americans have no idea that half the shrimp they eat, is from India. Hundreds of shrimp farms were set up in India under American tutelage, American patronage. They have exacting standards. There are inspectors who come there, and now you're slapping tariffs on shrimp. All right, your shrimp will go elsewhere. Please have a domestic promotion, encourage people, put down that chicken, eat shrimp, right? So there are a lot of teachable moments here. I don't think we need to be funked. Pakistan is just a small piece of it, really. I mean, we sort of inflate this country into something bigger than it is. They're scared, and they're going to make all kinds of wild threats. But our competition is not with Pakistan. Our competition is not even with U.S. or China. I mean, to us, we're a big country, and we're a domestic consumptive economy. We don't depend so much on trade as other countries.
60% of GDP from domestic consumption.
Right.
Sorry, I was going to close, but General Shukla, your hand went up, so I will give you a quick word there.
I was just wondering, what are the expectations from the Alaska summit? What I read is that all that Putin has suggested is that, or where that the talks are heading is that the Americans have said, all right, no unconditional ceasefire. We'll discuss the root causes issues. So Ukraine membership of NATO, EU, that kind of stuff. They are not even getting to the territorial piece where the great complications lie. So if that is the case, then no matter how the summit terminates, will that lead to this lifting of tariffs? I have my own.
Any thoughts, Chidanand or Ambassador Puri? I think, are you wanting to?
Yeah, no, General is right. It is very sketchy. I mean, the fact is they expect Ukraine to roll over, throw Ukraine under the bus and have Zelensky, put a gun to his head metaphorically and get him to sign stuff. And he's shown that he's not going to, and he will go down under it if he does in Ukraine. So I can't see at this time much coming out of it unless they just use language to finish things. Trump just wants headlines out of this, and he wants a Nobel out of this, so he'll try his best. But it's very hard to see a resolution at this summit. My guess is they'll sort of have an interim kind of agreement and then push on and say we'll discuss more things later on. So yeah, it's hard to see a resolution.
Lots of balls up in the air. We will leave it there. I think what I take away from that is that there's no necessary immediate sort of dialing down of tensions between India and the Trump administration. But I think what everybody here is saying is that it's all right. Been here before, seen worse before, survived those years, those decades. Better place today. Make your economy stronger. Get stronger from within. Always the best answer to adversaries is success. So that's what I believe. I think it's true for all professions and it's true for nations too. We leave it there. Chidanand Rajkhata, Ambassador Puri, General Raj Shukla. It's been a pleasure. And to our audience, thank you. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.